Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to TacticalBassin. Today we are talking soft jerk baits for fall bass fishing. We're talking about fishing flukes. Different ways to fish these baits, different ways to rig them. We're going to show you some underwater footage, show you some fish catches, really break this style down for you and show you some really unique applications for these baits that you can use these fall to catch more bass. The soft jerkbait is one of the most versatile baits that a bass fisherman owns. Whether you own a bass boat and fish on a giant reservoir, or you're a pond guy, you fish from the bank, you fish from a kayak, it does not matter. A soft jerkbait works everywhere. And what's amazing is there are some applications for it that nobody is doing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Some different things that you can do with these baits to make them even more versatile. So what I'm going to do first is cover the traditional rigging, what you would expect. A couple of different rigs that we've talked about before, but after that, I'm going to break out into some things that we have not talked about. We do a soft jerkbait video for you guys every fall because it is so deadly and so effective. But this one is going to include some new things. We're also going to talk about some new baits. Why don't we start with the baits themselves? We'll just run through those really quick. Then we'll talk traditional rigging and then we'll get into the tricks from there. So right out the gate, if we're talking soft jerkbait, the number one bait that we're talking about is a Zoom Super Fluke. In my opinion, that is the industry standard for a soft jerkbait. That right there, Zoom Super Fluke, Smokin' Shad. If I could only have one color, that one right there, Smokin' Shad. However, I found this one this summer, and I've been waiting for my bass to get back on the bait fish, and it just started. This color, Electric Shad. Look how good this color looks. I don't know if it's gonna show up in the camera or not, but Smokin' Shad is like a silver with a dark back, a little blue and silver flake. This throws in that same basic color, but you get some purple in it. Hopefully it shows for you guys. It is incredible. I'm excited about that color. It's the little things. So the Zoom Super Fluke is the standard. If you want to upsize, a Magnum Fluke. But there are some other phenomenal options. Here are a couple more, and they have some really unique applications. Two that I want to talk about. This is a Bass Assassin, and this is a Reaction Innovations. These two baits, little bit different fall rate. So this one, just like a Zoom Super Fluke, if you take these two baits and throw them in the water without a hook in them, they float. They'll sit right on the surface. This one, if you throw it in the water, it'll sink. It's got a lot more salt in it. But these two baits, the Bass Assassin and the Reaction Innovations, have an incredible dart and movement underwater. They move so much more erratically than the other options on the market. The Super Fluke, hands down, still just the standard. I throw it all the time. But if you want to step it up, either one of these will give you a very different action. Very aggressive, very erratic. I'm fishing these baits fast. Now, the Bass Assassin in particular, if you want to slow down, this bait rigged up just like this. That's an EWG, it's a Gamakatsu hook, EWG Super Line. It's a little bit heavier wire hook, rigged weedless. That Bass Assassin right there, if I just throw it into the water, it will sink like this. It'll rock on its way down. And it looks good. I mean, almost Senko good. It looks really good. But then when you fish it, you get that really aggressive darting and hopping action that's phenomenal. And then of course it comes in a large size as well. So standard size and like a Magnum size. Then the other one I want to talk about is the Strike King, the Caffeine Shad, and then they make a Magnum version of that. The Caffeine Shad, just like that Reaction Innovations, if you took it and just threw it in the water without a hook in it, it'll sink like a rock. So it's got a lot of salt in it. It wants to go deeper. So what I want you guys to think of these baits as, think of it as a system. Zoom Super Fluke, my standard, my bread and butter. I want to get more erratic. I'm going to one of these two. Totally different profile on that reaction innovation. It's actually got some fins. It's got some shape to that fork tail. It's got a little more presence in the water. It's a little bit fatter, a little bulkier. And that actually matters because all my standard flukes, if I'm Texas rigging, I throw them on that 4/0 EWG Superline. I throw this one on a 5/0. It's got a little bit more profile. But anyway, back to the system. Zoom Super Fluke is standard. If I want to get erratic, I go with these. And if I want to get deeper, then I go with that Caffeine Shad. The Caffeine Shad will just naturally, on a long cast, run a couple of feet deeper than the others. And if I slow down, it'll run even deeper than that. So if my fish are blowing up right on the surface, I'm working that bait fast and aggressive, I want a fluke. But if I really want it to dart and hop and move, I'm using the others. If my bait fish are there, but the bass are not breaking the surface, I want a Caffeine Shad to get down, work it just a little bit slower underneath the bait and draw those bass out. And this technique will get better and better and better in the shallows as the bass corral bait going through the fall. For another 2 months, this will just get better and better. If you see bass up there blowing up on bait, they don't want to hit a topwater, a fluke just takes over. You can smash them on a fluke. Even when they want a topwater, you can speed that fluke up, work it right on the surface, cutting and hopping and darting. They come unglued for it. But you can also slow down. Now, the standard rigging, I already told you, EWG Superline 4/0, Texas rigged. That's the regular old way to rig them. That's on that Bass Assassin, but it's the same with all of them. Second way to rig it, and we have taught you guys this as well. This is not new to you if you have stuck with us the last couple of years. If you're new to the channel, this will be very new for you. The second way is this little tiny hook right here. Now, we'll cover this quickly because we've covered this in videos before. But essentially what this allows you to do is fish on light line. I typically throw a fluke on anything from 12 all the way up to 20-pound line if the bass are in thick cover. But if I go this route, I can go all the way down to 6 to 8-pound line, and I can even get away with throwing it on a light or a medium spinning rod. Makes a huge difference. So what you do is you take a standard fluke or any of the other baits. Take an owner CPS spring. You take that spring and you screw it into the nose of the bait. And again, I know a lot of you have already seen this. There's some new things coming for you in a minute. This will screw right in. I'm going to twist that bait. It'll start going in there. And I do it all the way until it actually vanishes right inside the nose of the bait. So now there's a spring hidden inside the nose of that fluke. I tie my hook to my line and I stab through the bait and through the spring. There it is. It's a nose rig. Now this hook, this is again, it's a Gamakatsu EWG, or excuse me, it's a Gamakatsu finesse wide gap. We're going to link all this gear down in the video description for you. If you're new to the channel, we do that with every video. Every bait, every hook, the rods, it's all linked down there so you don't have to take notes. It's really simple. But this hook is offered in a standard like this and in a weedless version. So you have both options. But rigged like this, you can fish this on really light line. Now what's amazing about this, and we never would have known if we weren't doing underwater footage. That's the fascinating thing about getting subsurface with a camera and watching how these bass behave. We take away so much that we would never know. What we discovered is that bass prefer to eat the fluke head first. Even small ones. Very few fish, as this fluke is darting through the water, come up behind it and eat it. Almost all of them wait for it to turn and then they kill the head. And they'll still suck it in, but it goes in head first. So as a result, if you're throwing a Texas rig, They eat it and you set the hook. They might be hooked in the top, the bottom, the corner. They could be anywhere. Rigged like this, 99% of them, when they eat it, you set the hook, sticks right in the roof of the mouth every time. It's a perfect hookup. And you can drop down and do this with a very light line. So if you're fishing spotted bass or smallmouth, it's an awesome way to do it. But also if you're fishing clearer water, your fish are finicky, they're nervous, they don't want to commit, you can catch them on a fluke when no one else can. If you drop down a light line and a light hook, and I'm telling you, your hookup ratio remains awesome. Now, what I want to talk to you guys about today that is different is fishing deep water. So let's grab a couple of these baits. I'm going to give you 3 different hooks for doing this. First off, these bigger baits require a bigger hook. Boy, that one. Oh, it's because I put a spring in it. I was going to say, the nose of that one's a little crazy, but I already put a spring in there. That one was ready for the nose hook. Let me get a different one. There we go. These bigger baits, the magnum size flukes, you need a bigger hook. So if you're going to do the Texas rig, there are 2 hooks that I like. One is a trocar, the other is an owner. You get one of these trocars out of here. All right. The trocar, that's an 8/0. The owner, that's the jungle hook and a 7/0. Actual profile is very, very similar. These are big hooks. You need a big rod to set. Don't be throwing these on a medium heavy. If you're going to throw the big one like this, you need to be throwing on a heavy action rod. But standard Texas rigging, through the nose, pop it out, then back through the belly, and skin hook. Okay? Now here's a trick. If you want to fish your bait up on top, see where that's coming out there? About a 1/4 inch back. If I want to fish up on top, what I'll do is I'll push that farther back. So I'll stab farther into the material before I come out. Now rig. See how much farther my hook is set back in that nose? I'm actually going to have a line inside there. The hook ends about here. What that does is it centers the hook. Now the bait wants to fall more vertically. When it's up there in the nose, it wants to fall head first. Falling head first, it will sink quite a bit faster than when it's falling, I said vertically, I meant horizontally. When you fish it rigged back, it's a lot easier to get the bait to stay on the surface and jump and hop out of the water. If you want to fish down deeper, if you're trying to get some depth, you want to nose hook. We'll do that one more time. You want to just barely come into the head of that bait, pop out the side, turn around and rig it. Like that, where that hook has moved way back up to the nose of that bait. That's going to cause it to tip up. It's going to sink faster. You can also add a bullet weight, like a bullet weight, a little pagoda weight. We'll link it down in the video description if you don't know what that is. I said bullet twice. I meant nail weight, a pagoda or a nail weight. Just a thin little weight. Right in here behind that hook, I can insert a little weight and it will really cause it to nose up, and then it will dive hard. And that's how we fish these in deep water traditionally. Now going to a caffeine shad, which is already a sinking bait with a lot of salt in it, will help it get down there even faster. Now why would you do that? Bass eat bait fish, we know that. They eat them up shallow, they pen them. They also pen them down deep. We've talked about that in the deep crank videos. We've talked about that in our fall videos. The bass are going to corral bait fish down in the rocks as well. On points, on breaks, on deep edges. They're going to ambush bait. And depending on the lake, that could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet deep. You might be out there spooning. Well, you can get these down there too, and no one does it. No one fishes flukes super deep for fall bass, and it works. When they're on bait fish, you can catch them. So these bigger sizes, now you can do it with the small sizes too, same rules apply. But the big size, I just like that big profile down deep because I'm trying to catch a bigger bass. That's why I'm going through the headache in the first place of fishing all the way down there. So you can move it forward, put a nail weight in there, you're good to go. Or you can switch your rigging entirely. It's Frenzy Whack-A-Sack. 4/0 hook for the big ones, 1 or 1/0 for the little guys. Check this out. Here's the rig. So same thing, put your CPS spring in there. We're going with the nose rig, only it's got a weight on it. And that weight is free floating on the line. You've seen us talk about these Whack-A-Sacks before. What you actually do, I don't know if you can see that, I hope you can, you tie to the weight itself. And that leaves the hook free floating. There's a lot of movement, a lot of freedom here. So when you throw this out, it's going to head like a bullet to the bottom, and then when it lands, your bait is left free floating. Your bait's still going to end up on bottom, but you can hop it and work it and snap it, and that bait will dart and fall in a movement that no other bait has. It's unique, it's different. Remember in the fall, when these bass are ambushing, the big bass typically hang below all the others. They like to sit right on the bottom, let the little fish do the work up above, let them kill the shad, and then whatever's left, whatever falls down, they just come along and scoop it up. Those giant largemouth are not stupid. They let the little ones do the work for them. A bait like that falls hard, ends up on bottom, and then you can snap it up, pop it, it'll dart and drop. It's a different look. It perfectly imitates a dying bait fish coming down and landing on the bottom, and you will get big bites. And then because you're on that nose rig, you can drop down line too. When you're fishing really deep water, 20, 30, 40, 60, 80 feet, if you're a reservoir guy, you know these fish can go really deep. If you're a pond guy, don't worry about that stuff. Fish these lighter weights. But a deep guy knows that heavy line is the death of you because the line itself is catching that water. It's just hard to work a bait down there. But with that nose rig, you can drop down. You can do this on 6 or 8 or 10 pound. You can catch those fish down in deep water too. It's a different look. It's a different rig, different action, same fish. Fluke fishing, everybody knows, is a dynamite way to catch them in the fall. Soft jerk baits are where it's at. But if you use it like a system, you've got your standard bait, especially a standard bait in a new color. Man, I'm excited about that color. Once in a while, a color just gets me. I mean, I'm a tackle junkie. You guys know that. Tim and I both are. I see new colors, I'm all over it. But still, you want to keep it system. Don't buy, Flukes come in like 50 colors. Don't buy 30 of them. Buy 1 or 2 or 3 that you have a lot of confidence in and stick to it. But again, back to that system, different options for different applications. More erratic, different look, fishing deeper, and then just a couple of hooks. You got your Texas rig hook, depending on which size you need. You throw a big one or a little one. And then a Whack-A-Sack to really get down there deep, show them something they've never seen. That's going to get you through the fall. This is a fun technique because anyone can do it. You don't need ultra high-end equipment. I've got this rigged up here, 7 foot, medium heavy. I like to fish them on braid to a leader unless I'm gonna fish deep water. If I'm fishing deeper water, I go to straight fluorocarbon. Because that deep water, I just like to let that bait fall and settle. And I'm not as aggressive. What I like the braid for is right on the surface when I'm ripping and snapping and popping. If I'm throwing it on fluoro, you have to pull a lot harder to get those darts and movements. With braid, you just snap that rod. It's a lot easier on your body and the action looks better. Because even when you're ripping on fluoro, it's an exaggerated movement. On braid with little stretch, when you snap that rod tip, that bait just really aggressive, sharp movements, and it works. But again, you don't need an expensive combo to throw a fluke. The flukes themselves are not expensive. This is an inexpensive technique that anyone can do that will catch a lot of fish, and it will catch giant fish. It'll catch them all fall, and then you'll be ready to go spring and summer next year. That is an awesome technique. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done that yet, I mean it. Hit that subscribe button. We do 3 videos a week for you. We teach, we take you fishing, we travel. We want you guys to be better anglers. I hope this helped you. Again, if it did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will talk to you soon.